welcome to week number 5 of the regular season in Reddit League Season 3. This week, we did not have any matchups, given how just things worked out. So, yeah, Calamity, we've got something special planned for you all.
Yes, I went through the videos that we did get, which were still quite a few. I think we got like 15 in total or something. Just didn't work out any better. And went through some of the more interesting rounds that I could find. Not necessarily watching through all of their play in the first place, just, looking at the result, looking at how other people did, and in some cases trying to see what it was exactly that they found that made the round work for them and not for others. And I chose 5 rounds, not necessarily based on, one round 1 from one person, then one round 2, just 5 rounds that I thought were interesting. And I put together some topics I'd like to talk about in each of the rounds.
Yeah, okay. Well, let's jump into it then. So you picked round 1 from Division 1, Raymond Mucha in Cambodia. So let's take a look at his round here. Now, of course, Cambodia not known for its information. So
yeah. So the thing that I chose for round 1 in particular, not necessarily just for Cambodia, although you can see Raymond finding a phone code. We'll talk about phone codes later. Mm-hmm. But in that case, that phone code obviously helps him because it tells him the rough area. But what I generally wanted to talk about in that round, as he doesn't seem to fully know which phone code it is exactly, is traveling direction. Because especially in a country like Cambodia, it can be so crucial to go in the right direction, which sometimes is luck-based, but sometimes you can increase the chances of that working out for you, especially in countries like Cambodia, if you look at the coverage beforehand and sort of decide which general direction is the more likely to give you clues, which is actually what Raymond did going into Cambodia. He said he's always going to go south, no matter what. And then this was one of the rounds where it worked out for him.
Yeah, he is heading south on a major road. What might be worth pointing out, too, is he's kind of heading outside of a town. We started in a small little town/village, and he is trying to get out of it.
Yes.
Because obviously inside of a town, there could be lots of information, but the best signs are usually on the roads leading to just outside of a town, as people start their journey and need to know directions and distances of their next destination. So that can be very helpful.
Yeah, there could be lots of information in a town if it wasn't Cambodia.
That's true. Most countries it works, doesn't work here, but we do get a little stone pillar, and I believe that is an indicator of the road.
We'll talk about those stone markers in round 5 because we'll have a lot of time to talk about it then. But, the thing is, they're sometimes helpful and they're sometimes not helpful. And I don't know if there's anything on... I don't think there's anything on that one that'll help Raidman out. But I now just want to know if he keeps looking at that stone pillar for the next 30 seconds and looking for towns, which I assume he will do.
Yeah, they do have towns on both sides of them.
Oh, okay. He does actually continue traveling, which is good. I wonder if he makes it to where I want him to make it to. I doubt it, unfortunately, in the remaining 10 seconds that we have.
Yeah,
let's see.
He's making a beeline for it. He's heading...
Yeah, no, he won't. Because he's like right next to the Vietnam border here. So like if he do like another 2 or 3 clicks, he'll probably hit a dead end. So that's what I was hoping for. But either way, he seemed to realize that he's close to it either way, but just ran out of time a bit there at the end. And as so many people always do, overestimated a bit how far he traveled.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he knew there at the end that he did that kind of curve to the eastward direction, and just judged where he might have started way far back on that road rather than as close as he actually was. But yeah, 4,550 points for him. Not too bad. in Cambodia for sure.
Yeah, he was one of the only ones who even got that road rights. I myself, when I played it, I did hit the border with Vietnam, but I just couldn't figure out which road it was exactly because there's quite a few roads crossing over from Cambodia into Vietnam. But obviously, finding the area code there helped him.
Very nice. Well, we're jumping into another one here. We have Lowe's 24/7 from Division. Oh, he's not from Division 4A. He's from Division 3.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. That was last season. But right off the start, he's got a little bit of a shop name.
Mm-hmm.
He is in a town.
Yeah, in this round a town. He is in the capital. In this round specifically, I wanted to talk about pinpointing in Phnom Penh. Because usually in those, as he sees a sign that tells him he's in Phnom Penh and pretty much gives him the whole address.
Right there. There you go. The YouTube, maybe it's his recording or mine. I'm not sure, but the quality jumping in and out on that sign. But
yeah, usually you'd think in a lot of Asian countries, pinpointing in cities can be quite hard, but Phnom Penh is pretty much labeled in terms of its streets like an American city, in that it's just got streets, it's pretty much got street number, and those are ordered, and so you basically just look through for the number you want and put your pin at the right place.
Street 338, and he is looking for it. I think he's got it. Zooms out to, I don't know, maybe do a double check.
Yeah,
but yeah,
the streets can continue for quite a bit. So you do have to check how far they really do continue, and there might be some breaks in between them, like it is in American cities as well.
I think that's 336 actually, but so in a Cambodian address, Calamity, it's like the street, the neighborhood, district, and city in a full address like we have here, or
usually it can differ a bit how many of those things you mentioned actually appear, but it's usually in that order, I'm pretty sure. Mostly the most important parts are the last one, the big city, and generally something that might be important as well as the one before that, for just to get the general area, and obviously then the street number itself.
Very good. Yeah, he was not too far from intersection, which always helps pinpoint as well. He will get an ace in that round, given he did get the full address. Looks like a few other people have played the round so far when he recorded his video, also doing quite well, though he is the only one who's pinpointed that we can see at least.
Yeah, the thing is, Phnom Penh is like very easy to recognize in Cambodia. It looks not very like any of the other cities, especially in the urban areas. I can't really describe it very well, but it's just so different from anything else that you can usually tell that you're there just from when you spawn in. But it's actually it's similar to a few other countries in that, you know, it's not always easy to pinpoint with POIs because they might be there, they might not be there. Usually developing countries can change quite a bit between the times when Street View was recorded there and the time when, well, right now when the map is up to date, hopefully. You never really know, but
yeah, that's definitely one thing that can happen in Southeast Asia. The map is just old, so
yep,
not the most accurate thing to happen. Well, we have your round for round number 3 here, Calamity, as we get into this one.
Yeah.
So what did you like about yourself here?
Yeah, gotta be quick about this one. This round doesn't take all that long. What I wanted to talk about here was the importance of practice and just recognizing specific areas. In this case, walked a bit east, saw that sign, and I remembered, well, after a bit, remembered where exactly that temple was. So this is a round that's still not too difficult, even if you haven't seen or haven't been in the area before. But just, I've watched someone, I think it was Radox, who I also watched, and he didn't recognize, or he'd probably never been there before, so it took him quite a long time to confirm that this was actually the right place. Whereas for me, it was just simply a case of, yep, this is where we are. let's get the pinpointing right, because Radox then spent about a minute or so trying to get it right in pinpointing, and I think he missed by like a point or two as well. So it's always good not only for repeats to practice a map, because this wasn't specifically a repeat for me. I hadn't had a location at that water feature, which is why I didn't recognize it instantly. But as soon as I went on the road, I realized I once had a round before where I came in from the east and made it to that same sign. So yeah.
Yeah, in my game for this week, we didn't have two locations really close to each other, but just within the Division 4 seed, there were two very north locations, which kind of gave you the same feel. Like there's big mountains to your north. So if you paid really close attention the first time, when it came up in a later round, you're like, hey, this is the exact same kind of biome that we were in 2 rounds ago. I'm going to start looking for the small information that I found in that area. And I think, for me anyways, I did much better in that second time because I'd seen a lot of those names already, basically spending 4.5 minutes looking in the area. And I was familiar with a lot. But yeah, definitely play the other divisions as warm-ups for your own. I would recommend that. It's really helpful if you're in a lower division because you play with a shorter time, which means you get used to trying to move faster, looking for things. And then when you play your own game, you realize, hey, this is not so bad. I've got 4 or 5 minutes. I can sit back and relax and calm down a little bit.
Yeah.
So definitely worth practicing with also a shorter time in those higher divisions.
I'd always recommend practicing with the time limit of where you want to be and not with where you're currently at. So I've pretty much been practicing with 3-minute timers ever since season 1. It can make it like if you are in somewhere like Division 5, I wouldn't necessarily recommend to practice just with those very short timers because it does change your playstyle. Of course, you have to play differently if you've got 3 minutes compared to if you've got 5 minutes. So you might do things that are worth it in a 5-minute timer that you wouldn't do in a 3-minute timer. So I'd recommend doing it a bit, just maybe at the start or at the end of your practice, either or, just to see how good you've become at it. But you still need to be aware of what you can afford to do in a 5-minute timer as well, because there are some things that, are worth it to do if you've got the time.
Definitely. Yeah, I don't know about you, but for like when I have a shorter time, I usually spend less time on the actual map.
Yes, definitely.
And I try to spend more time getting information in the game. And then when I move up to I'm in Division 4, so I get my 4.5 minutes. I spend that extra time on the map, trying to pinpoint, trying to find the town names that I might have or whatnot. So that's what I do. So I basically have my initial time, if I'm really paying attention to my play, that I try to always do the same. And then that extra minute or so I tack on is just trying to find things and pinpoint and making up for my mistakes I made earlier on. For me at least. But.
Yeah, it can be a good thing to spend a lot of time on a map, but you also run into the danger of just getting lost in it. And, spending 2 minutes looking for something small on the map when you could have walked like a kilometer further and found a sign to the capital or something like that. So you always got to be careful of, is the information that you found worth it to look for on a map, which just goes back to practicing and getting to know that better.
Sense, definitely. Okay, well, we have our fourth round, which actually is a round 4, for Tall Impala in Division 2, and a very dirt location.
Yeah.
Looks like they're actually building the road. He's not on it yet.
Now he's on the road in quotation marks. But yeah, this was the famous horror round of Division 2, the round where no one except for Hexalt got over 500 points. And I chose Tall Impala because he actually made it to where he could have found information, but just either didn't look in the right place or was a bit, you've got 20 seconds, you hit the main road, what do you do now? That kind of thing. So we'll have about 2 minutes now to talk about other things while he's just randomly clicking through the background. One of the things I wanted to talk about here as well is traveling speed. As you can see there, he's clicking through these random villages pretty fast because he's practiced Cambodia a bit, so he knows he's unlikely to find anything there. So he just wants to get past those tiny villages and get to somewhere where there's better information available.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a trick that a lot of players can learn from, is that could you find information? Yes. Could you find decent information? Yes. Are you going to find information that's going to get you, 4-4-9, an ace in the round? Probably not, unless the country like the back of your hand. So getting that big information, even if you've got to travel a far distance to get it, is worth the travel.
Yeah, it's
because also you can always jump back to your starting location very easily. It's hard to get to further points, right? Yeah. So if something's close by, save it for later. Come back.
Yeah,
it's basically the clue here.
It's a bit of a trade-off, always a bit of a percentage game, where if you stay in this village, if you really take your time looking at the landscape, you could end up with like 2,000 points. But if you go further, you might find the information that you need that gives you a 5k or very close to it. But on the other hand, if you don't find that information, you just spent 3 minutes clicking, not looking at anything, so you're unlikely to get a good score. So you always kind of have to balance that out.
Yeah, and we see that in some of the Division 1 players. Mr. Blue is kind of famous for being a much slower player than people like Raidman or Radu, who really zip around and just seem to try to get as much as they can. And Mr. Blue does more of a making the most with little strategy. So there are different play styles. Just kind of figure out what's your own and how you're going to play your own game.
Yeah, usually the more you know about what you're playing, the slower you can afford to go. But we're about to hit the crucial point here with Tall Impala. He's hit the main road
with like 20 seconds left.
20 seconds. He decides to go south, which in this case was a bad direction, but that's where luck comes back into it. As I've mentioned before, you never know. Now he's got 10 seconds and he can't do anything with it anymore. He's not found a kilometer stone. He's not found an area code, both of which were available in the town that he hit. So if he'd gone north, there was a kilometer stone in about 150, 200 meters. So he could have hit that. Again, just a question of would he have even seen it going past maybe. But he himself also noticed phone code available there in that town. But we've got 20 seconds. You've just spent 3 minutes clicking around. You're a bit panicked. You're running low on time. That's sort of the times when you really need to have experience. You need to be calm, and you need to just try to make the best of it.
Yeah, I know that a lot of players have been doing a bullet league lately, where basically it's just look at something and just get on the map as fast as you can. That might be a good training exercise for just you saw something. Even if you have no time, you can still jump to the map, drop a pin. Just basically getting really comfortable with navigating GeoGuessr, zooming in on the map, moving around, kind of dragging your map and your viewpoint a little bit. All definitely worthy skills that players can use to improve their game. So, let's jump in. Actually, I didn't switch. I was too busy listening and chatting. Here we go. Let's switch to our last round. We have Irekmi from Division 5. Division 4A.
Division 4.
I do have this. Do have that correct. There we go. In his round number 5. So Calamity being nice to us with this one. For this one, but
yeah, for this specific round, I just wanted to use that because it was a good round by him. He ended up with the second best score of the seed on that one, and B, because I wanted a round that takes quite a while for me to talk about other things that I didn't really get the chance to mention yet, and C, because we've not shown any of him before, I'm pretty sure. So I just wanted to use that for that.
Haven't worked out.
Yeah. So the first thing I wanted to talk about here, and probably one of the most important parts of information, as we actually saw him quite interestingly there, he traveled south for a bit, doing the raid man tactic, and then decided, okay, this is not leading anywhere, let's try the other direction. Good in his case here, because it'll work out in the end. But the thing I wanted to talk about, most important thing, pretty sure in Cambodia, is kilometer markers. You'll find them regularly on main roads. Not at all on side roads, unfortunately. That would have been very helpful if they just placed them everywhere around the country. But those kilometer markers can be very helpful, but they can also be very deceiving. They usually tell you on the side of them which road you're on. Those sometimes are old denominations of roads, as he's looking at, I'll mention that in a bit. But so sometimes it's just a number that you can't find on a map, but usually you will recognize if you can find it or not. Like if you look at the highways for a bit in Cambodia, as he's looking with good timing at a kilometer marker. This one does have the number on the side. I think that's the 5 here.
Yep.
And they usually have cities on either side of the marker, as well as kilometers. I think the number in the red bit is the kilometer number of where you are right now, but that can help. But it requires you to know where the road started, which side of it, and have a very good estimate on how far how far a distance is on the map. But the thing with the most interesting part about kilometer markers, because they're generally not a new thing, like you've got that in quite a few other countries as well. In Cambodia, which towns / which cities are on the kilometer marker sort of changes with every kilometer marker you see. So travel a kilometer to the next one, you get two completely different cities on it. Travel another kilometer, you'll get 2 more different cities or villages on it. So it can be quite helpful if you don't know the cities on 1 kilometer marker to just go to the next one, because you know already that you're on a road where you've got the kilometer markers. So there'll be another one in a kilometer. So you can just check that, and maybe you'll find the distance to Phnom Penh on one of them. Most likely you will. Depends just on how many you have to check. But yeah, the other thing there is also that it's not always necessarily towns or villages or cities that are on these kilometer markers. There can sometimes be.
I noticed that.
Yeah, there can sometimes be province names. There can be just sort of region names. There can be, for example, you can find stones that tell you the distance to a border. For example, I know of one specifically that says Vietnam border, so and so many kilometers. And they can also, there's a couple in the north that show you the distance to the same city in both directions, which is quite funny to see. It'll say something like 300 kilometers that way, 350 kilometers the other way to the same city. And yeah, quickly, while Headache Me is 20 seconds before the end, I also wanted to mention phone numbers again quickly, because he was looking at one earlier. You do have area codes in Cambodia. They're very helpful. You find them rarely. You can find them most often on beer ads, which are everywhere in Cambodia, as he gets a good score there.
Yeah,
and he's happy about
indeed. That. Yeah, very nice. I moved the little overlay here so you could see his smiling face, as he got a very nice score in that round. But yeah, definitely. You see there, he used those markers to kind of pinpoint his location. Knew we started off on a small road. Pay attention to the direction he traveled in, and then was able to do quite well, just a little bit off that actual position. 348 meters for him.
It's very hard in rural Cambodia to know which of these random dirt paths are a road that's on the map. So it can be quite hard to pinpoint there. And also, like, you can see he traveled quite a bit to the north. So I don't think he had the time at the end to be 100% confident about like which little side roads to the north of him, which is to the south. So he still did a very good job there.
He did, and I believe that was enough to pick a win up for him as well. So bolsters his chances of getting promoted to Division 3 next season. So well done there. Yeah, so I hope you all enjoyed this kind of unique look at some of the competitors. Of course, we didn't have any matchups. Gave us a chance to talk about how the players played in Cambodia and how players play in general, week to week. You also got to see a few faces you haven't seen yet perform and see how they're doing in their divisions respectively. So yeah, well, thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye.